and we're just gonna all cover around the history of Godzilla Jr. from the Heisei trilogy of Godzilla throughout the series, from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 and Godzilla vs. Destroyer, right from above. While inspecting the heavily irradiated Adunoa Island and bearing the sea of the Japanese scientists led by Hiroshi Omai and the Russian petroleum workers discovered a pteranodon nest containing a hatched egg and seemingly perfectly intact egg, the scientists lowered the egg onto a helicopter intending to bring it back to an institute in Kyoto, but they were attacked by Rodan, a giant irradiated pteranodon that Omai believed they hatched from the other egg. Godzilla soon emerged from the sea and came ashore under the island, where he engaged Rodan in battle, buying the time for the humans to escape in a helicopter. Godzilla seemingly killed Rodan, then followed the chopper back to Japan. The egg was kept in an institute in Kyoto and watched over by a scientist named Azusa Gojo, the creature inside of the egg listening for its mother's voice, imprinted on Azusa as its mother. It exhibited a red glow, detecting fear anytime she left the laboratory. Mikisagaska had a fern attached to the egg brought to ESP Institute so as to measure the physic energy she felt giving off strangely. The students in the institute retrieved the music from the fern, and when the music was played, it caused the egg to hatch in a laboratory. To everyone's shock, the egg was hatched into an infant Godzillasaurus rather than an infant pteranodon. The hatchling named Baby Godzilla proved to be docile and believed Azusa to be its mother. Suddenly, Godzilla appeared in Japan and began heading Kyoto after defeating Mechagodzilla. Godzilla reached the city at the point Azusa, Omai, Miki, and Kazuma Aoki hid the baby in the basement of the institute, where he could not find the baby. Godzilla eventually leaves Kyoto and returned to the ocean. Baby was moved to the G-Force facility, where he was kept in a large enclosure and watched over by Azusa. Studies of Baby Godzilla's anatomy revealed something surprising. The creature possessed a secondary brain located in his hip region, which controlled motor function in his entire lower body. G-Force concluded that, as Baby was the same species as Godzilla, that Godzilla must possess the same structure. G-Force formed a plan codenamed the G-Crosser to use Baby Godzilla as a bait to lure Godzilla to Ogasawara Islands, where Mechagodzilla would use its weapons to destroy Godzilla's secondary brain and kill him. Azusa objected to the plan, but she was told that plan was critical to finally defeating Godzilla. When the baby was being loaded into a canister to be carried out to the Ogasawara Islands, his eyes began to glow red. Azusa insisted on accompanying the baby and entered the canister as well, which was carried by helicopter and rolled. The chopper was attacked by Rodan, who had been resurrected as Fire Rodan. The Fire Rodan destroyed the chopper and grabbed the canister, intended to break it open with its beak. Mechagodzilla was launched to stop the Fire Rodan and recovered the canister, and with the assistance of the Garuda, seemingly killed him. Professor Omai and a team of soldiers reached the container and attempted to open it, while Godzilla arrived and began the second battle with the Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla combined with Garuda to form Super Mechagodzilla and succeeded destroying the Godzilla's brain and crippling him. At this point, Baby broke free of the canister and cried out, getting attention of the wounded Fire Rodan. He took the flight but was shot down by Super Mechagodzilla and fell onto the dead creature. Fire Rodan transferred his life force into Godzilla, restoring his second brain and imbuing him. With a surge of power, Godzilla rose to his feet and destroyed Super Mechagodzilla with several blasts of his red spiral heat beam. Knowing that the baby belonged with his own kind, Azusa bade goodbye to him, causing his eyes to grow red again. Azusa tried to leave in the helicopter. Baby grabbed onto her shirt, tears welling his eyes. Azusa apologized to the baby and left, leaving him alone with Godzilla. He approached the baby and roared to him, but Baby cowered in fear, using her telepathy. Mikisagaska convinced Baby to go with Godzilla. He and the baby waded out to the sea together, demonstrating that life would always triumph over the artificial life. A year later, Baby Godzilla had taken up the residence on the Bass Island, where exposure to Godzilla's radiation had caused him to grow to 30 meters in height. Now known as Little Godzilla, the young Godzillasaurus roamed the island freely, frequently following the G-Force Major Akira Yuki, who was living on the battleline to observe Godzilla with the goal of killing him despite his hatred for Godzilla. Yuki had a soft spot for him, who Yuki claimed was fond of him as well. When the G-Force members Koji Shinju and Kiyoshi Sato arrived in the battle along with Mikisei Goza, Susumu Okubo, and Chinasto Gondo to enact Project T, Yuki had a tear gas mines planted along the shore. Unfortunately, Little Godzilla set up the mines instead, and eventually ran off into the jungle. When the monster Space Godzilla landed on the island, Little Godzilla approached him. Space Godzilla immediately attacked the young monster, causing his eyes to glow red in fear, as if sensing his adopted son was in danger. Godzilla came ashore and confronted him. Little Godzilla cowered behind his father, who fired his atomic breath at Space Godzilla, who was easily deflected with its crystal shield. Space Godzilla knocked him down with his Corona Beam, then used his telekinesis to grab Little Godzilla, entrapping him in the little crystal prison. Godzilla got his back to his feet and pursued Space Godzilla to Japan, intending on freeing Little Godzilla. After Godzilla defeated him with the assistance of Mogira, Little Godzilla's crystal prison was destroyed and the young monster began roaming Bass Island again, and firing the atomic bubbles from his mouth. In 1996, nuclear reaction in Godzilla's heart ignited uranium deposits under Bass Island, causing the island to be completely vanished in fire explosion. Neither Godzilla nor his adopted son could be found near in the island former's location, and were both initially presumed dead. However, Godzilla covered in glowing red rashes and dubbed Burning Godzilla soon surfaced in Hong Kong. Little Godzilla was still nowhere to be found, and Kenkichi Yamane determined that it was unlikely he survived the explosion. When whales began to die in large numbers in the waters around Japan, Kenichi and Miki considered the possibility that Little One was responsible having been changed by the explosion. The Little One was soon surfaced at the Omazaki in Shizuoka Prefecture, having now grown into a sub-adult, dubbed Godzilla Jr. by G-Force. Commander Takayasu from the Junior's course, it was apparent he was returning to his nest on unknown island, and Godzilla was following him. With Godzilla about to undergo a catastrophic meltdown that would destroy the planet, G-Force formed a desperate plan to get him to fight Destroyer, a monster spawned by Oxygen Destroyer used to kill the first Godzilla in 1954, and the hopes he would be killed in the battle. Miki was forced and reluctantly uses her telepathy to bring Junior here to Tokyo. Knowing Godzilla would follow Destroyer, they attacked Chopper carrying Miki and Miura Ozawa, but Junior defended them and battled Destroyer. Destroyer pinned Junior to the ground and began injecting micro-oxygen into his bloodstream, causing him to foam in the mouth. Junior was used atomic breath to blast Destroyer off of him into a refinery, which exploded. Junior rose back to his feet and roared victoriously, and he approached Haneda Airport. That night, Godzilla and Junior reunited at the Haneda Airport, calling out to each other. Suddenly, Destroyer rose form into a burning fire refinery in his demonic final form, then flew into an airport where he grabbed Godzilla Jr. and carried him high into the air. Destroyer dropped him onto the Araki Coliseum, then blasted him with his micro-oxygen beam, mortally killing him. Miki and Miro landed dropped Chopper in near Junior, then as he closed his eyes and seemingly died both, Miki and Godzilla were stricken by grief. While Destroyer turned his attention to Godzilla, he battled the evil creature and eventually defeated him and approached his fallen son. Godzilla tried to breathe energy back to Junior, who briefly opened his eyes before finally passing away. Godzilla was once again roared out in grief, but was attacked by Destroyer once again as Godzilla began to melt down. Destroyer tried to retreat but was shot down by G-Force freezer weapons and killed upon colliding with a superheated ground as G-Force conducted to operation to minimize the damage caused by Godzilla's impending meltdown by bombarding him. With their arsenal of freezer weapons, Godzilla finally died amidst the wreckage of the battlefield, while the China Syndrome scenario had been averted by G-Force efforts. catastrophic amounts of radiation were released into a new atmosphere as Godzilla's flesh melted off his skeleton. Though Tokyo seems to be doomed, becoming an uninhabitable wasteland. Suddenly again, the radiation area decreased to a normal background levels. Through the smoke, a newly revived Godzilla Jr. roared, having absorbed his father's dying radiation and matured into a new Godzilla. And that's all we have for this history of Godzilla Jr. today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode of Wikizilla. JK88 signing off. Peace.